Welcome, it's the Intuitive Lover Girl, and today I'm going to be telling you the truth about happiness. Before I get into the video, I want to introduce myself to those who are new. I'm Jada, and I make videos about stepping into your divine feminine and spirituality. I decided to make this video based off of recent events. For one, we are in the month of July, so we are halfway through the year. The new year is approaching sooner than we think, and I think it's the perfect time to evaluate and make some adjustments towards bettering our life in a way that will take us closer to where we want to be. Also, Inside Out 2 just released, and when the original movie came out, I believe I was in 8th grade, and now I'm 22. So I was super excited to go back to see the movie because I remember relating to the first one so much and being excited for the eventual release of the second film, which was going to introduce the emotions that come with puberty. So I went to go see the film, and I found myself relating so hard to the plot and the character anxiety. It made me have this reality check moment. I had to remind myself that I'm in control, and as good as my intentions may be when I worry about the future and try to control everything, it gets in the way of my joy. I also remember that I have to actively be aware when I am letting anxiety take over, because in the moment it may not feel as if anxiety is operating. Sometimes it feels like joy is the one in control, but if I were to really sit down with myself and my thoughts, I would realize it was anxiety all along. Then there was part of the film where the character Joy kind of snapped on the other characters because they were calling her delusional when she was coming up with these ideas on how to accomplish a goal that they had, but none of the other characters were even helping her. So she was like, of course I have to be delusional because I'm around you all the time, and you're all so negative. And that kind of hit home. So I decided to make a video because in my social circles, I tend to be known as the bubbly, happy-go-lucky girl. For most of my childhood, I was known in school as the social butterfly. I wasn't too focused on my academics, so I would win awards like the Laffy Taffy Award because I was always laughing and smiling, and people would tell me that I had a smile that was contagious. People just look at me and assume that I'm just super happy and have everything all figured out, and life is just so easy for me, and that I'm really, really lucky. And I will say that I am truly blessed, but it hasn't always been easy, and I don't believe that I'm lucky. I believe that I created the luck, the opportunities that I have in my life. In fact, I don't think anyone is lucky unless they just come from old money or very rich parents. But even that may not seem as good of a circumstance as you may think. I was really depressed for all of my teenage years and some of my childhood years. I had a lot going on in my head and felt everything very intensely. I also felt like life was purposeless because all I saw around me were people who were waking up, going to their 9 to 5, coming home, spending a few hours with their family, and repeating that same cycle. On the weekends, going out to eat, going shopping, and going on a trip a couple times a year. Although to most, this is the American dream, that life never appealed to me. In fact, it made me very sad and hopeless to think that that's all that my life would be. At this point in my life, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life or what I wanted in my life, but I knew that it wasn't that. But I had no idea of all the possibilities that my life had in store, and that made it much more melancholy. I realized in school early on that school was setting up what my future was going to look like. I realized from a very early age that school really wasn't going to teach me about how to become successful and function as an adult, but to follow and listen to orders and to complete things by certain deadlines. This caused me to be really negative and indulge in self-destructing behaviors until I had my spiritual awakening when I was around 19. The events that led to my spiritual awakening started with an attempt to avoid a depressive episode. It was summer before my sophomore year in college. My boyfriend at the time was going back home for the summer, and I basically had lost all of my friends. I low-key abandoned them when I got in my relationship, so I realized I was going to be all alone. I didn't want to bask in my sorrow or spend my time wasting away my money or going out to eat. So I decided to go to the gym, and long story short, within a few months I had lost like 40 pounds, and that was something that at the time I never thought I would be able to do. In fact, I didn't think I was capable of doing anything in my life at that that point in time. I thought I had absolutely no skills, no talents, I had no hobbies, no interests, no passions. But when I lost the weight, it made me realize that if I could do that, then I could do anything. And then from there, I set out on this mission to figure out what was next for me. What was I going to do now that I did something I never thought I would be able to do? And since this gave me a sense of purpose, and that led me to the realization that your mindset dictates how you feel and everything that you do. And that's when I had the realization that I'm no longer going to be depressed, and I'm no longer going to live this life that was so dull and meaningless. But I also realized I was going to have to choose to make it a life that I enjoyed living each and every single day. Most people don't realize that happiness is not something that you just catch. It's not something that you can just win over. Happiness, along with really anything that you want in life, is something that you have to have first become. And then once you become it, you'll have it. You're probably thinking, what in the world does that even mean? And if I'm answering honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But I have learned a few lessons and adopted some customs that I think will help you get closer to happiness, and I'm going to share that with you today. Happiness is a choice. As I've already stated, happiness is a choice. Every single day when you wake up, you have to actively choose happiness. And that sounds very easy to do, but actually it's easier to choose depression. It's easier to lean into anger and to lean into guilt, lean into self-loathing, than it is to release and just allow yourself to experience happiness. In fact, I will be bold enough to say that people low-key enjoy their misery. They low-key bask in their pity and their self-hatred and their miserable life. It feels good to them because that's how they get their attention, and that's how they accept their circumstances. Why? Because when you are pitying yourself, when you're ignoring your role in your circumstances, you're avoiding self-awareness and self-accountability. It's not easy to be aware enough to hold yourself accountable for your own bullshit. It hurts because then you'll be forced to actually take action and direct energy towards actually making a change in life. So that's why people choose to cop out. But if you want to experience happiness, you're going to have to choose a different narrative. Get comfortable doing the next best thing. So at this point, you're probably like, okay, but how do I even choose to be happy? And that is a very good question. You can choose happiness by continuously doing the next right thing or the next best thing. I say the next best thing or the next right thing because it may not always feel very blissful in the moment, but it'll bring you closer towards happiness. Basically, actively move in a direction that is going to bring some type of excitement and happiness into your life. What I mean by this is, let's say one thing that makes you really happy is playing the guitar, but let's say you haven't played the guitar in years, so you're a little rusty and probably need to take a class. That sounds like fun, but that requires you to book a class, block out the time, and basically direct all this energy towards doing yet another thing. So what you could do is decide to not book the class and spend all of your downtime scrolling, or you could block out some free time, invest some money, and take the class. Not only will you get to play the guitar, but you'll also get to meet other people who also like to play the guitar. And now you've tapped back into something that brings you happiness. Another example could be something as simple as choosing to get up and go to the gym instead of bumming it out on the couch all day. You should definitely get up and get active, especially if you're young and able-bodied. I just think that it's completely senseless to waste away your body. It will never be in this youthful condition ever again. I also like to say, when you move a muscle, you change a thought. So anytime that we move from a place of stillness, our thoughts change. For example, if I was lying around just thinking of all these negative thoughts, most likely if I decided to go out on a walk, my thoughts would change because I'm moving my body. Now I might be thinking, oh shit, I'm low-key getting out of breath and it's getting really hot. But hey, I wouldn't be thinking about how lonely or how miserable my life is. So that's a win. Moving your body makes space for new and more positive thoughts to enter your mind. Not to mention, when you're taking care of yourself, regardless of your weight, you are not going to help but to feel good about yourself. Then if you happen to lose weight, which you will if if you're continuously choosing the next best thing, you'll feel even better because now the way you look on the outside will reflect the way you already are feeling on the inside. So don't forget, the more comfortable you get doing the next best thing rather than doing the comfortable thing, the happier you'll become. Move in purpose, not in pleasure. This next custom is sort of in line with choosing to do the next best thing, but this is more of a focused effort. And that would be to shift your mindset from seeking pleasure to seeking purpose. For those who don't know, your purpose is basically like your calling, or that innate thing that you always have been drawn to. Your purpose is that thing that you might suppress or you might even run away from, but you always find yourself going back to it or wanting to explore it. A lot of times you are gifted with your purpose from a very young age, but you might not realize that it is your purpose until much later in life. Your purpose could be anything from becoming an astronaut to starting a family or collecting every single crystal in the world, but it's something that is special to you, something that you want to do from the bottom of your heart, not because anyone else put that onto you. You may be thinking, Jada, I don't have a purpose. And if you don't have a purpose, I have no choice but to say that you must not have a relationship with God or your higher self. Now, I'm going to preface and say that I'm spiritual and not religious, so I believe that God is within you. So if you don't know what your purpose is, it really means that you don't know yourself. And if you're trying to figure out what your purpose is, you should at least figure out who you are. But I would put more of an emphasis on creating a relationship with God or your higher self, the universe, spirit, or whatever it is that you call that energy. Because the closer you get to God, the more you'll understand yourself and will come to know what you truly believe and what you were truly made for. I can make a whole video on how to find your purpose, so I can break this down further for you guys. But moving forward with the point, sometimes when you're constantly moving out of pleasure, it's actually moving you further away from your purpose. Because if we're being real, moving in your purpose doesn't feel good, and that shit ain't easy. But anyone who has consistently moved in their purpose or in alignment with their higher self will be able to attest and say that it led to the ultimate amount of happiness, because they were able to make some short-term sacrifices to achieve some bigger picture shit. And real quick, that's the reason why I say you need to have a relationship with God, because a lot of times when your purpose isn't just for you alone, a lot of times you're here to achieve some generational or other dimensional type shit. Just think of life as one big mission with a million mini missions within it, and you simply walking in your purpose is allowing you to achieve these quests that you didn't even know you were supposed to be achieving. Even if you don't want to think of life that deeply, just know that your purpose most likely is meant to not only impact you, but at the very least, the people around you. So be mindful to walk in your purpose and not in pleasure. Change your mindset. The next point goes back to what I said about accepting that happiness is a choice. Accepting that happiness is a choice is not an easy task. In fact, it will literally require you to rewire your brain and change your whole mindset and way of thinking, but it's required. So that's why I made the fourth point to becoming happy, changing your mindset. I would say this is probably the hardest of them all. This is also the thing that will take the most continuous work. There's no way to avoid this in life, because the first thing you have to understand is that from the time we are like 7, hell, really all of our childhood, we are being conditioned or brainwashed into believing all of these things that we were never able to come to the realization of on our own, which means that essentially none of our beliefs from childhood up until our teenage years are our beliefs. Though only a short amount of time, these years are crucial to shaping the way we view and move in the world throughout the rest of our life, because we build every single belief based off that belief system, because that is the groundwork in which we have laid for ourselves to navigate life. It's important that we reshape our thinking because, for one, the government has conditioned us into having a collective self-diminishing way of life. Furthermore, our parents and family have placed all their beliefs onto us. In a perfect world, that is okay, but we have to understand that there are these things called about limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs are basically beliefs that disempower us, and a lot of people project these disempowering beliefs onto others, especially their family members, because they're able to see more of themselves in these people. And a lot of times it's hard for people to accept that others who are from the same place as them or are related to them are capable of doing things that they themselves don't think they are capable of doing. Not to mention, our peers and literally everyone that we come in contact with can affect our mindset. That is only if we allow. Every experience we have in life can impact our mindset and how we behave in life. All of that outside noise and chaos can cause negativity in the mind. A lot of people don't realize how many negative thoughts they have in a day. Most people aren't even aware of their thoughts, let alone aware of the fact that they have the power to control their thoughts. It's also important to note that our thoughts aren't even our own. We're more so observers of the thoughts that we have, but we get to choose which ones we accept as true. So if you're going to be happy, it's important that you go ahead and take control of your mind. This is something else I can make a separate video on as well, because it's really important, and I think it'll be fun to unpack this. Change your diet. In the next point, I want to talk about a few things that I think will really put the cherry on top of the cake when it comes to your happiness. And that is changing your diet. And no, I'm not talking only about your physical diet. I'm talking about your spiritual diet. The spiritual diet is basically everything that you consume. See, consumption isn't just about the food that we eat. Consumption is about the energy that we allow in. Now, that could be from our food, or it could be from the people and the media that you are drawn to. It's important to form an awareness of the energies that we are allowing into our life, because people, food, music, and social media may subtly be having a negative impact on us. The first step that I would make to change is your physical diet. So try to eat more mindfully. I'm not saying go vegan overnight, but do some research on the proteins that you are consuming and distinguish if you want to continue consuming them or if there are any that you want to remove from your diet. Get more fruits and veggies in. A lot of people don't realize most of the people in America are vitamin deficient, especially if you are a Black American. You most likely, at the very least, lack vitamin D3. So in addition to eating more fruits and veggies, get some more time outside in the sun, specifically without sunscreen. Now, I'm not telling you to completely stop wearing sunscreen, but invest in spending some time in the sun where you don't have sunscreen so you can get all of the natural D3 that comes from the sun, which in turn will give you more energy, a glowing appearance, and overall, being in the sun just makes you feel better. The next way I would adjust my spiritual diet would be to change the type of media I am consuming. So when I was leading up to my spiritual awakening, I started following more positive accounts on social media. And then once I actually had my spiritual awakening, I decided to unfollow a lot of the accounts of celebrities or just anyone that no longer resonated with me energetically. The goal isn't necessarily even following people who are at the same energetic level as you, but follow people who are at the energetic level that you are trying to rise up to. What I mean by energetic level is people who are being more positive, people who have real things going on for themselves, not just flexing on the internet. People who speak love and light into not only their life, but the lives of everyone around them. I would also advise to unfollow gossip or any account that promotes consumption, such as mukbang accounts or shopping accounts. The next thing I would do is to cleanse my spiritual diet is to cut out toxic music. I spoke briefly about this in my last video about activating your light and dark feminine energy, but the mainstream music that is pushed out to us is actually very low energy. The music that we consume literally vibrates at a different frequency that is outside of the 432 hertz that pretty much everything living in the universe vibrates on. And while it's okay to reach frequencies higher or lower than, you have to be mindful of how that energetic shift impacts you. Now, you're not going to be able to easily tell what frequency a song is lyrics, and it's exhausting to look that up before you listen to any new song. So I would say to listen more to you, your intuition, and how the song is making you feel. Start paying attention to the lyrics and what it is that these artists are actually talking about in their songs. The beat may make you feel great, but that might be distracting you from the subliminal messages and indoctrination that people on top or in charge are trying to force onto us. Instead, listen to music that inspires you, that makes you want to dance and sing, and that is uplifting and has a positive message. I even enjoy listening to music that is non-lyrical. It's just instruments or sound frequencies. These can be very healing for the mind. The last and final way I would cleanse my spiritual diet is to get rid of the energy vampires in my life. Energy vampires are people who just drain and suck our energy, and they come in all shapes and forms. Honestly, some of the biggest energy vampires in our life are sadly the people that we are closest to and that we love the most. It goes back to what I talked about earlier when I mentioned how family members and friends will project their limiting beliefs onto you. That's just a tactic that energy vampire will use to dim our light and try to make themselves feel better. So that's why I put this last, because it's honestly the hardest to do. It's not easy to have to evaluate and let go of people that are no longer serving us. But if we want to be happy, it's crucial that we limit negativity from our life as much as possible. In fact, in my life, one of the biggest energy drainers are the people that I allow in. That's why I don't allow people who drain me of my energy to get too close to me. The people that I do allow in my life, I make sure to hold boundaries with myself and with them to ensure that I'm not giving out too much energy than I can afford. How do you know if someone is an energy vampire? Well, everything goes back to how you feel. Pay attention to how the people in your life make you feel when you are around them. How do you feel when you are around them versus when you are not? When you leave from hanging out with them, do you feel more energized or do you feel drained? You don't have to completely cut people out of your life, but I would say at the very least, limit your time and interaction with them. As hard as it may be, changing your spiritual diet is a non-negotiable in becoming happy and in maintaining happiness. So I want you to know that first off, everything that I mentioned in this video are things that I'm still trying to work on myself. And I probably will not become a master at any of this until much later on in my life, if ever, but it's something that I try to actively work on day in and day out. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act as if I still don't have depressive episodes, because that's simply not true. I have experienced seasonal depression, and I have moments here and there where I fall into depressive episodes for a couple of weeks. But I also have to remind myself that I'm the only person and the only thing that can pull me out of that dark place. So when I do pull myself out, I have to be on my P's and Q's to make sure that I'm not doing anything that is going to perpetuate me getting back to that state. I'm not gonna lie, it takes a lot of work. It can be actually very draining to try and be happy all the time. But I think that the goal isn't to be happy all the time. Again, like I said, we shouldn't be seeking pleasure, we should be seeking purpose. And sometimes our purpose is to experience seasons of depression, seasons of pain, seasons of grief, of guilt, because that's what's going to push us to live more in our overarching purpose. So moreover, the way that I feel when I'm consistently putting in the work to better myself and the way that I feel in the long run, it's always worth it. It's always worth the short time sacrifices that I have to make, the short term discomfort that I have to endure to push myself further ahead mentally and spiritually. So with all that being said, please let me know if you have any questions or anything that you would like to add to this conversation. I would love to chat with you in the comment section below. Also, I would love to hear any feedback that you may have about what I said, or if you have any video ideas that you would like to see from me in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me be able to reach the people who are supposed to see my videos, and it also helps you stay up to date with all the things that I'm talking about. I want to thank you for making it this far in the video. It's been so fun chatting with you, and it's the Intuitive Lover Girl, and I hope all of you lovers enjoy the rest of your day.